Well, hello there. This is Virtual the Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. This is the fourth episode in the series where I cover some of the tactical ideas, themes and motifs in my new book, 50+2 Chess Quick Wins. And today's tactic is on page 24, looking at how the bishop can deflect the king from the defense of the queen as a way potentially of winning the opponent's queen in the early opening stages of the game. Now, the idea that underlies this tactic is carries on from the last video from a week ago, where we talk about the unique weakness of the f-pawn. So the f-pawn is particularly weak at the beginning of the game, f-pawn, because it is only defended by the king. No other piece defends that piece, in the opening anyway. And the king, of course, is not a good defender. And part of that is because of the existence of check. The king cannot end its turn, so a player cannot end their turn with their king in check. It must be dealt with. It means that a king cannot be sacrificed, cannot be left in check. It cannot defend a piece or capture a piece when it's defended by a second attacker. There's one other piece on the board where, again, at the beginning of the game, it is only defended by the king, and that is the queen. So when you think about it, the queen is not defended by any piece other than the king at the beginning of the game. So the king is the only defender of the f-pawn and the queen. Now the queen obviously is not as weak because normally there's pawns in front of it. However, this dynamic allows us a potential tactical idea, which is that if we're ever able to have a double threat simultaneously on the f-pawn and on the opponent's queen, it may be the case that the king cannot defend both. And if it is the f-pawn or the f-square that where the threat is being delivered with check, the opponent must prioritize that because of the special property of check. The opponent cannot end their turn in check. Effectively, we could deflect the opponent's king from the defense of their queen, and potentially we may be able to win the queen. Now, that will only occur where the queens look at each other, so a fully open d-file. That's not a very common occurrence, but it can occur. So what does this tactical pattern look like? Well, let's say, no, this is just a very simplified look. Well, let's say we capture the f-pawn with our bishop here. We capture, the bishop is giving check to the king. The king must respond to that check. It cannot escape onto the d-file because the d-file is, our queens look at each other. So potentially that square is attacked by our queen. So that's not a legal move for the black king. The black king must go to either f8 and escape, or capture our bishop to escape check. You can escape check by capturing the checking piece. But if they did that, the king can no longer defend the queen, and so our queen now captures the opponent's queen. So that is the tactical pattern. Let's see this in a couple of games to see how it can potentially arise. Now, the first game is from a England gambit accepted, so from the perspective of black. So white leads with d4, and let's play this game with a particular focus of the king's defense of their queen and the king's defense of that weak f-pawn. So England gambit, of course, is e5, captures. Notice we now have a semi-open d-file, and in this particular game, the bishop was developed. Bishop having vision on that weak f-pawn. They developed normally, and now another very tricky move, gambiting another piece, inviting black to capture back. They do. And here, remembering our pattern where the queens have to look at each other, the bishop taking that weak f pawn, deflecting the king from the defense of the queen. Because that pattern exists, effectively, this pawn is actually pinned to the queen. So that's the thing to remember. In this game, black offers another piece to sacrifice. Gambit's a full piece. Will black see that tactic? Will they see that that pawn is actually pinned? They don't. And so now that's a blunder. We launched a tactic. Bishop captures with check. King must deal with the check. Cannot escape this way. Only one legal move in this position, which is to capture the bishop. Bishop captured. Queen captures queen. And in this game, white, suffering emotional damage, resigned in this position. Move 6. Let's look at another slightly more complicated example. Again, playing from the perspective of black. And in this game, it comes out of the Stanford Gambit. So again, let's keep our eye on the white king's defense of their queen and white king's defense of that weak f pawn. So Stanford Gambit comes out of Petrov's opening. So e4, e5, knight, symmetrical knight to f6. They capture. Now the other knight inviting a trade. So this is the Stanford Gambit. Stanford Gambit accepted. Captures. Notice again the semi-open d-file, which means that pawn is potentially pinned to the opponent's queen once the bishop comes out and has vision. So they push a pawn. Here we go. There's the bishop. Looking at that weak f pawn. Remember, with that pattern, potentially that d pawn is pinned, which in this case means it's not really defending the e pawn on e4. The opponent tries to pin the knight. That's a blunder because now, remember, that's pinned, knight captures. Now here, it's a brilliant move because there's two traps. Firstly, it looks like a oh no my queen trap. Now, if they do go down this pathway, it's a mistake because after captures, they lose a point of tempo. Bishop now captures with check. That's even defended. King has one legal move. And then bishop to g4, and that is actually mate because every single square is defended. And so the king is trapped, and that's a mate. So that's a oh no my queen trap. But in this position, remember, attacking there, that potentially is pinned. They avoid that trap, but capture the knight. That's the second trap in this position. So captures, and here we see that pattern. So bishop can now capture the f-pawn, deflects the king. Now white tries to avoid the deflection by moving the king forward. Now here I've highlighted all the squares immediately surrounding the king that's covered by my pieces, by the black's pieces. Bishop can now come out, also with check. King is now forced to capture the dark square bishop. It's been deflected. Queen captures queen, and basically again in this position, white resigns. Emotional damage. Good game, GG. Well, I hope you think about this particular tactical pattern. It doesn't come up that frequently, but the thing is to be mindful of it, to know of its existence, look for it, and so it becomes potentially an active choice on whether you make use of it, or if the opponent makes a mistake, being able to launch a devastating opening attack. Thank you.